Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Ete Bhavana Dhamena Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Arayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Arayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Arayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Arayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Sadhayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Sadhayama Vishuddharta Yaschata Sahavittivihi Ete Varnasvadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Harim Sharayama Vishudyarta Yajjata Sahavittivihi Ete Varna Swadharmena Yajanti Swagurum Hari Sharayama Vishudyarta Yajjata Sahavittivihi Ete all these Varna orders of society. Dharmena are one's own occupational duties. Yujanti worship. Guru with the spiritual master. Hare Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shanaya faith and devotion. Atma self. Shuddhi Artham purifying. Yat from whom? Chata born. Saha long with. Vitivihi occupational duty.
All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions with the Supreme Personality of God. Thus, for unconditioned life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritualists.
Since they are born from different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord in His gigantic form, all living entities in all parts of the entire universe are supposed to be eternal servitors of the Supreme Body. Every part of our own body, such as the mouth, hands, thighs, and legs, is meant to render service to the whole. That is their constitutional position. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of this constitutional position. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know that it's through the system of the varnas, the social orders. As above mentioned, the Brahmana is the spiritual master of all the orders of society, and thus Brahminical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, is the basic principle for purifying the soul. In conditioned life, the soul is under the impression that it can become the Lord of the universe, and the last point of this misconception is to think oneself the supreme. Foolish conditioned soul does not take into account that the supreme cannot be conditioned by Maya or illusion. If the supreme were to become conditioned by illusion, then where would be his supremacy? In that case, Maya or illusion would be the supreme. Therefore, because the living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. The actual position of the conditioned soul is explained in this verse. All the conditioned souls are impure due to contact with the material energy and three modes of nature. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, who not only is a Brahmana by qualification, but must also be a Vaishnava. The only self-purifying process mentioned herein is to worship the Lord under the recognized method, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. That is the natural way of purification, and no other method is recommended as bona fide. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to this stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains perfection. Bhagavad Gita 7:19 confirms this truth as follows. Bahunam jamanam ante jnanam prapadyate vasudeva samriti samadha sudurlabha.
It's very systematic. Lord awards not only for individuals, for armies, occupations, but even decades. For example, my wife, a large section, and deals with how, when a living being in the body of a Shudra unites with a person comes from a different type of family, and what the occupation will be. The occupation is given as barber before this barber is born from this to be a washer. And he'll have the tendencies to like that. Because he'll be equipped with that. Now these occupations are not just arbitrary. They're devised for the different species, just like we see different animals. They have different tendencies. When they're born in that particular species, they have a tendency. Dogs have a tendency, they like to bark. And they have the perfect body. No other creature has a body suited for barking. The dog. So dogs bark because of the same. If it waddles like a duck and it quacks, it's a duck. Can't be anything else. Like a, yeah, so that means that there's an arrangement. Someone's arranged different species. And when they get the body of that species lower than human, it's already inculcated to them. You can call it, it's their instinct, tendency. They imbibe it from nature. So nature has awarded them, they understand that I must fly like this. Who tells this squirrel that he has to hide his food, his edibles in the earth? Doesn't tell dog that. Dogs don't do that. Cats don't do that. Sometimes nature tells a cat, you cover over your pass. That they do, because they're dictated. But when the human is probably nice going out, one reaches human form, he's supposed to hear from the Brahmins, to hear from the scriptures, as presented by the Brahmins, because the Brahmins understand it. They can understand the Lord's plan for the human beings. And they pass that on to the teachers. Teacher doesn't just mean he studies something taught by some speculators, or some people who don't really know. Teacher means he's teaching the absolute truth that is given by God. We're accepting so many things as education and knowledge, but they're not really the important thing for the human being. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Vedanta Sutra says that now that you've reached the human form of life, it's time to understand Brahma. Understand the spirit. You've wasted your time finding out how to eat different foods in different species. They all have their different tastes. One animal has a taste for this, another animal has a taste for that. And they know what to eat. They don't eat poisonous foods. Otherwise, all those fish would be dead. They know what to eat. That's the reason. The humans, they know what to eat by the modes of mental nature also. They're attracted to certain type of foods. Person in the mode of goodness, they're attracted to eating things in that category of goodness. That description is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Those are juicy and prepared. And there are foods that are too salty, too hot, spicy and hot. So that's more passion. That more ignorance was cooked many hours before left. And these such things, they're not attracted to a person of goodness. But the person of ignorance likes that. Like meat and things like that. Person of passion or some goodness will not be interested in eating meat. Have no taste for it. And a real Brahmana, real teacher means he should be a Vaishnava. Because that's the natural conclusion to his education. His understanding about Vishnu and the hierarchy, the different, all the different species, 8,400,000. And amongst the humans, Brahmana is considered topmost. So now, as a Brahmin, he should continue his studies. Then he becomes a Vaishnava. And when he becomes a Vaishnava, that's perfection. If he only becomes a Brahmana, and the problem is, he may still mix in some brutal activities. He may want to get some benefits, he may want to be recognized, a learned person, or he might want to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy them. Or he might mix his knowledge with the desire to merge and become one of us. That's the pitfall. That's the last pitfall. The person wants to become God. He didn't make it by earning money out and feeding everyone. He's learning. So he wants to just by just wishing it, he wants to become God. Not possible. So that's Maya. And we see that practically the whole world is now in this Maya. Impersonalism and voidism. Voidism, they don't even want to become God, but they want to become nothing, not exist. That's not a very high desire, not very intelligent. They want to become zero. They say we're negative now. The best thing is nirvana becomes zero. Nothingness. But no, better than zero, we admit zero is better than minus. Why not take the positive? Go to Goloka, go to the spiritual world, where all varieties are there without any impediments, without any downside. It's true, we have enjoyment in the material world. There's also lots of suffering going on. You can't get pure enjoyment. But there is pure enjoyment on the spiritual level, in the spiritual world. That's available to the Vaishnavas. And so everyone should become a Vaishnava. and take their due reward and live with the Lord in the spiritual world, turn any suffering. So these different modes of material nature are controlling the living entities in the material world. And if he follows the instructions of the Vedas, then he makes gradual progress. He can go from mode of ignorance to mode of passion. He can go up next life. Or if he fails, if he doesn't behave properly, he can go down again. He can go from the human species down to a lower species. That's considered the greatest fear, the greatest loss. I mean, we missed our opportunity. And we don't know how many births we have to wait till we get another chance at human life. I'm so happy that I got another chance. I understood that this reincarnation. Happy to get a chance now. You should make sure that you shouldn't go back down again. Therefore, one has to be very careful and follow the instructions of the Vedas carefully under the direction of the spiritual master. Questions or comments? You want the next text? Five. Etat Shraddha Bhagavato Daivakarma Rupinah Ashadhatyat Pakartum Yogamaya Dhamodayam. Oh, Madhura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of God? And read what?
The froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculations on the subject matter of the Virat, the gigantic form exhibited by the Yogamaya internal personality of Godhead, but factually no one can measure such a vast exhibition. In Bhagavad Gita 11:16, Arjuna, the recognized devotee of the Lord, says, Aneka Bahudara Vaktranitam Pashyamitam Sarvitonantarupam Nandam Namadyam Namunastavadim Pashyami Vishvara Vishvarupa. O my Lord, O gigantic Vishvarupa, O Master of the universe, I see innumerable hands, bodies, mouth, and eyes in all directions, and they are all unlimited. I cannot find the end of this manifestation, nor do I see the middle, nor the beginning. Bhagavad Gita was specifically spoken to Arjuna, and the Vishvarupa was exhibited before him at his request. He was awarded the specific eyes to see this Vishvarupa, yet although he was able to see the Lord's innumerable hands and mouth, he was unable to see him completely. Since Arjuna was unable to estimate the length and breadth of the potency of the Lord, who else would be able to do so? One may only indulge in miscalculation like the frog philosopher. The frog philosopher wanted to estimate the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean by experience of a well 3 cubic feet large, and thus he began to puff himself up to become as big as the Pacific Ocean. but at last he burst and died by this process. This story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of the Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from a bona fide spiritual master, and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service as suggested in the previous verse.
I'm going to guess great deal of information about cosmic manifestation, in particular these mirrors, how each universe is done. And they will try to describe it in quite some detail. There are perhaps other more detailed bits of information that there is about this. We have a Holocaust as some portion dedicated to cosmology. One of the principles of being recognized as Brahman. And now I'll tell us who's done that. So much information is given about manifestation. So, but those who are not familiar with the Vedas, they prefer their own way of looking at the universe. The inductive method. They see a little bit something in the sky, and although they don't have any particular way of measuring its length or how long it is, they guess. They like to make guesses, and so they, of course, on the basis of what they guess, they come up with theories. And because, for example, they couldn't figure out where the universe could come from. Them didn't have a real good idea. So they agreed to make the source of the universe void. And then they devised up. Came from nothing, but somehow or other exploded. Big Bang. Now we have void giving birth, nothing giving birth to the universe or something that explodes. And that somehow or other organizes itself into all these very systematic planetary systems. That's just a brief summary. That's the froggish philosophers' plans. We're making those kinds of, they're making those kinds of speculations. But that's not the way to understand it. The way to understand it is here. Or like Arjuna. Arjuna was a submissive devotee. And he said, if you like, he approached his teacher, Krishna. If you like, you can show me. You can reveal this to me. I'd like to see it. We can't just order. We can't speculate with our limited senses. How can we understand the universe with our imperfect senses? We can't see things far away. We solve that problem with a Hubble telescope. But it doesn't work that well. You can't really see what's going on there. Of course, we present it as if we can't. But this is not the process. This process, the process that one has to learn from someone who knows the truth, which is beyond our mental capacity. Ataksi Krishna Namati, Vigraham Yai, Sivamuki Jivado Swami. One cannot understand the absolute truth, personality of God, with imperfect senses or mind. Not available that way. It's available only through the process of devotional service. By performing devotional service, the Lord becomes pleased. And when He's pleased, He reveals Himself. Nahapakasha Sarvasha, Yogamaya Samavata, Udoyam Navajanati, Ukamamajamami. I've never manifest the foolish and intelligent. For them, I'm always covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya. Thus, the deluded world knows me not from unborn infant. They don't know, they can't see God. We've never seen God. And then they say, no one's seen God. It's another faulty statement. Just because they've never seen God, why does that mean no one's ever seen God? There is such a thing as God. And He reveals Himself, and not to one person, not to two people. He's revealed Himself to millions, trillions. But one has to follow the process. It's like if one eats properly, puts the food in the right place, then the body works very nicely. Similarly, if one tries to apply his intelligence, his mind, senses, to devotional service, and that means hearing with submission, hearing submissively to the Lord and His representatives. If the Lord does not come someplace personally, He may send His representatives. And they teach about Him. So we should hear from them. And they come in the Sampradaya. If one doesn't get mantra, is initiated into the Sampradaya, then you won't be able to get the mantra he gets will not have any potency. So that's why we get the Mahamantra through disciplic succession. And then our chanting will have fruit. Love of God, Prayojana, is the ultimate fruit of chanting. But if you get the mantra from someone who's interested only in sense gratification, then you won't be able to get Krishna. Mantra won't be imbued with it. So it has to come through this sampradaya. And there are bona fide sampradayas, 4 bona fide Vaishnava sampradayas. One, Brahma Sampradaya, headed by Brahma, and Rudra Sampradaya, headed by Shiva. And Sampradaya, which is headed by Lakshmi, Sri Sampradaya, fortune, and another mantra or another Sampradaya is headed by the Kumaras. So anyone who goes into these Sampradayas will have the opportunity to become devotees of the Lord and go back to Vaikuntha or go lower in the next life. So that's it. It's been eternally available. So one should desire that. It should be the goal. Why should one want to stay in the material world and go continually taking birth and dying in different species of life? Sometimes there's a frog, sometimes a snake. Why not go back to home, back to God, and live in your natural position in association with Krishna and his Lord. That's a better plan. Any questions or comments? Very much, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.